Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a brand new week on the Celtic Way. This is the morning briefing. One of those ones, John, where we're going to have a good old time because there's loads happening. It's a very exciting time to be a Celtic fan. We've got a huge game on Wednesday night. Loads of excitement just generally about the club. And there was an additional element supplied by our wonderful rivals yesterday. So I sense everyone's going to be in a fine mood this morning.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend in the Scottish Cup, shall we say? Not only were Celtic in good form, but things are the season's panning out nicely. I think that's fair to say, just given the situation of already securing the League Cup, streaking ahead in the Scottish Premiership, and now the Scottish Cup is, you would say, obviously nothing can be taken for granted too much, but
No.
Celtic will fancy this. It's in the palm of their hands to go and grasp in these final few months of the season. It's all happening. It'd be a fantastic few days for Celtic, and it could be a fantastic few days ahead too.
Yeah, plenty of work still to be done in the Scottish Cup, but
Mm-hmm.
things are looking good. Did we all enjoy that yesterday? I must say, there's a nice moment I had this morning when I woke up and I had a few messages from different people, just mainly saying Rangers and then about 100 laughing emojis. And obviously, when you see that, you're suddenly like, I actually forgot Rangers were playing because I thought it was that certain they were going to win that I didn't even bother to really check the result when I got up. I didn't have to because people were messaging me. But it's a nice bonus, isn't it, on top of everything? On top of us winning 6-0 on 5-0, sorry, on
I felt,
Saturday and
yeah,
scoring all those goals.
yeah. I mean, Celtic were, I was kind of talking about last week how you can't take trebles for granted, even against lower league opposition. That's kind of how the weekend played out. What happened at Ibrox, it doesn't happen every year, but it can happen if you're off your game or you don't approach the game in the right way. And I thought Celtic obviously approached their game against Wraith Rovers in exactly the way you have to against lower league opposition. You have to turn up and treat them as equals and treat them as if they're, as if they're an
Bayern
opponent who can
Munich.
hurt you. Yeah, as if they're Bayern Munich. But I just thought Celtic again approached that game so professionally and had intensity in the game and knew that perhaps it was a rotated team. Brendan Rodgers obviously signalling that he's resting some players for Bayern, but nobody on that pitch treated that game any less importantly. And I think that's how you end up with 5-0 results, and that's how you end up on your way potentially to another treble, is having that attitude. And one team in Glasgow has it, another team does it. Maybe Queen's Park have it too, but no, the one team in Glasgow has it, and the other don't, and that's kind of the difference at the moment.
But like I was thinking to going back years ago, and like cup upsets did happen with Celtic. We all remember, like
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head, Greenock Morton under Neil Lennon. I remember St Mirren putting us out the Scottish Cup once. All the various ones we have at Hampden, they don't tend to happen with Celtic anymore. Like since
Mm-hmm.
2016, I know COVID season and I know Kilmarnock last year, but other than that, like Celtic are just so consistent. I think like an interesting point. It's not just the team either. I thought like the crowd on Saturday was
Yeah.
outstanding for a game against Wraith Rovers. And again, you go back 10 years, and I guarantee you that stadium would have been half full. And it's just, I know these things come and go, but I just think everyone is just so bought into everything Celtic are doing at the moment. The fan base is so engaged, and the team are so engaged in every match they play. And in years gone by, like that might have been a game that potentially we could have gone out, or at the very least kind of struggled in and had a bit of difficulty. I just think the team, you make 9 changes to that team, and yet they still just go out and it just looks effortless to them. Like we really shouldn't take it for granted how consistent Celtic are in the cups. Because again, like we spoke about last week, it hasn't always been like this, and it won't always be like this. And I'm well aware that we've still got 3 rounds to navigate and we'll be big favourites for all of them. But the team just in these cup matches, just they do look pretty unstoppable to me.
Yeah, they certainly do. And again, we're all having a laugh about it, and it was funny what happened at Ibrox. But again, that just shows you how difficult it can be to be consistent, especially against, a team that Rangers really should have been taking care of, regardless of what's going on at Rangers this season. That's a shocking result in performance from them. And that's what can happen if you just take your levels off just a little bit. A team can surprise you. Something can happen. A goalkeeper can have the game of his life. There can be that one moment in a game where someone in opposition just takes that chance that, sends an away team into dreamland. And that is why the cup competitions exist, because of those unknowns. But Celtic have kind of, as you say, over the last decade or so, have just managed to find they've managed to find the secret stuff to be so consistent across the board, and it is phenomenal. Again, players who, Dyson Maeda is not a student of the Scottish Cup. He didn't grow up dreaming about the Scottish Cup, but the effort that Dyson Maeda put into that performance again on Saturday is just extraordinary. And he played that game like he was playing Bayern Munich. Obviously, he's suspended this midweek, but he knows he's suspended. He knows, there was a silly moment that he had, but he's determined to put everything into the performance for the team, because he knows that, Celtic need him on that day, because, Brendan Rodgers rotated the team. Callum McGregor, again, he's not rotated out the team, but he leads by example too. Someone's just said in the chat, their mentality is the word, John. And that's true. The mentality of Celtic is monstrous. It's absolutely monstrous. And I think that, as much as anything, is what's provided that, foundation of success over the last 10 years.
Yeah. So we've got a game tonight, St Mirren Hearts, I think it is, and then we've got the draw after that. McLaughlin P's got it all worked out. We'll take Queen's Park, so we can say we won the quarter-final, semi-final, and the final at Hampden. But yeah,
it's an interesting profile picture that there. Did you see that?
Has that been like that all season, McLaughlin, or have you recently changed it? I'd be very interested to know. Listen, I'm a little bit conflicted today, John, because I'd love to spend the whole show laughing at Rangers because it's pretty hilarious. But we do have a big game on Wednesday night as well. We should probably touch on that, everyone. I know it's difficult to drag yourself away from laughing at them, but we should probably, as I say, discuss Bayern Munich, who won 3-0 on Friday night. But I've listened to it. It's one podcast I listened to earlier, and as I say, one podcast, but they weren't too enthused by how Bayern had played on Friday night. They won 3-0, but I think 2 of the goals were late on. 2 of the goals were penalty kicks by Harry Kane. They're Bayern Munich, but maybe they're not the swashbuckling Bayern Munich that some feared, perhaps.
I don't know. I'm wary of subscribing to that notion too much. What I will say is that Celtic's job on Wednesday is dragging them into the deep waters of Celtic Park by any means necessary. We've spoken about this a lot in Europe, but the games can be so changeable across the 90 minutes. 90 minutes is such a long time in the Champions League. There can be 3 mini matches within a 90 minutes, and Celtic will have to be at the top of their game in all of those, whether they're defending, whether the game becomes more open and kind of end to end, or Celtic do have those periods of possession where they can kind of sustain a bit of pressure. It's definitely going to be interesting, and Celtic, I think, are really up for it. I think the crowd are really up for it, and we've spoken about it last week, but having the home leg first is actually an advantage for Celtic in this tie to kind of go at Bayern. And I think they're going to give everything. And I think Rodgers is going to have the team so up for it. And he was asked on Saturday, like, how do you... He didn't explain why, but he was basically asked, how do you give the players belief that they can beat a Bayern Munich? And Rodgers just said, that's my job. That is his job. Like, he sees this is why he's at Celtic for a tie like this. This is why he is leading Celtic. This is why he wants to be at Celtic, but it's also why Celtic have him there, because I think Brendan Rodgers is the type of manager that can give you that belief that you can play a top European side and put on a performance that can surprise them. And so whether Bayern are a full-strength Bayern or the swashbuckling Bayern that we've known or not, I think Celtic will approach the game in the same way, and it's exciting. It's going to be very exciting to see the team test themselves at that level.
In terms of belief, I think it's pretty obvious. You look at what they've achieved so far this season in one game in particular. We didn't just beat Leipzig that night. I thought we battered Leipzig, to be honest. I mean, we could have won that game by more goals than the two we won it, 3-1. So I know the league table tells you Bayern Munich are a bit of a step up from Leipzig, but there's a top level European team who we, as you say, I loved that whatever you said about dragging them into Celtic Park with all that stuff that suits us on Wednesday night. The atmosphere really unsettled them. These are proven world class players you're dealing with. But make them as uncomfortable as possible, and it's not an infallible kind of opposition that we're playing. I was looking; they kept a clean sheet on Friday night, but prior to that, 10 goals conceded across their 5 games before that. So this is a team that do potentially concede goals. They also score goals. Listen, I agree. I think it's a two-legged tie clearly, but I'm not even thinking about Munich at this stage. It's all about Celtic Park. Can we get something to hold on to go into Munich, and then you just never know. There's some really, I guess it's up to people if they kind of work out whether they think they're interesting quotes or not. I certainly think they are, from Callum McGregor at the weekend, saying if we have any idea of progressing out the tie, we have to win. He's talking about the first leg. I think that's obvious. It'll be a tough game over there, so we have to carry something into the away game. In my opinion, we have to win. If we don't believe it, then no one else in the stadium is going to. Our performance has to bring belief to the stadium. Hopefully, we start on a positive foot and try and do the things that we want to do. At that point, the stadium grows in belief. One or two things might happen in the game, and all of a sudden, everyone's got this feeling that it could be a special night. So Callum McGregor saying, in terms of qualifying from this round, we need to win the home leg. And I guess it's an obvious thing to say, but also good to hear him saying it, that we're, go and win this game.
Yeah, and what we're talking about Celtic Park here, and there was a comment in the chat that Bayern aren't going to be intimidated by the atmosphere of Celtic Park. I think that's valid, but I think what Celtic Park is it gives players belief, and what McGregor is talking about there is almost having a two-way relationship with the crowd on Wednesday night, in the terms of Celtic approach the game in the right way and have that energy, and you can see in their performance that they want to lay something on Bayern Munich, and I think the crowd will respond to that. And we've seen in countless occasions that when the wind is at your back in these European nights, when the crowd is behind you, and Celtic are able to string a few passes together and get their angles right and make the right runs, then anything can happen. So it's not about intimidating Bayern Munich. It's about giving the players the environment to go and express themselves and, as I say, lay something on Bayern Munich. That's what we want. We want to give them a sore face, metaphorically, on Wednesday night. That's what we want Celtic to do. And I think the environment, the cauldron of Celtic Park can make that more likely. Make it more likely. If I just think Callum McGregor is spot on there. The players need to give the supporters something to believe in, and in turn, the supporters need to have the Celtic players back.
And I know it's a thing that's spoken about so often, but you go back a couple of years and the European champions came to Celtic Park, our first game back in the tournament, and that first half performance, while clearly we fell away clearly in the second half, and their class showed, that first half performance showed that Celtic can kind of go with these best teams. When we're at the top of our game, we can take the game to these real top teams. And I know personally, I think the team have come on a fair bit since a couple of years ago, and I think we've seen evidence of that in the tournament so far. And yeah, maybe I'm starting to convince myself that we could witness a special night. The bottom line here is that our best performance, if we hit the top level, it still might not be enough, because you're up against like just top players, and as much as I'm saying they're maybe going through a tougher period, like they're still winning the vast majority of games, and they're still top of the league. I think now by 8 points, is it? So they're looking good there. But no, I agree. I think at Celtic Park, with the stadium behind us, I think we can certainly give them a game on Wednesday night. Like I'll be pretty disappointed if it's a routine Bayern win. Put it that way. Like I'm not turning up and just thinking, this is Bayern Munich. Like we'll probably lose by a few. I really think this Celtic team are capable. of really giving them a good game. And for me, certainly avoiding defeat should be a target. As much, I think the team will be going for the win, though, to be fair.
Yeah. It's difficult because you look at it purely on paper, and Celtic shouldn't really be that competitive against Bayern. That's the reality of it. That's what a lot of the observers around Europe will be thinking about the game and looking at the game. But I think we know these players, better than the Celtic sport know these players better than anyone. And I think we know that if the conditions are right, the Celtic players can express themselves in a way that can be exciting to watch and effective to watch, even at the top level. And I think that is where the hope comes from, is that the Celtic players are capable of producing a big moment, a big goal in Europe. And then it's really up to the footballing gods at that point. And I think it's okay to be excited about it. I don't think anyone needs to be dreading. This is where we want Celtic to be. This is why you come through the group stages for these knockout ties. And you should dream ahead of them. That's what football's all about. We want Celtic to be testing themselves at the highest level in these games against a team that will want to win it this season. The finals in Munich this year, they'll be desperate to get there. This is a team who wants to win this tournament, and Celtic are going to go toe-to-toe with them. And I think they'll have the attitude that they can go toe-to-toe with them. And that's exactly what we want to see.
McLaughlin P. Lazio are the only team we've lost at Celtic Park under Brendan Rodgers in this spell. So, I mean, in Europe, certainly I think Hearts are the other team, aren't they? But, I mean, our form at home in Europe is great. It's all over, though, John, because I've seen this is a bit strange. The official Bundesliga website have just posted an article titled 5 Reasons Why Bayern Munich Will Progress Against Celtic.
There we go.
What are the reasons? Formidable form. Harry Kane is apparently a reason. Premium pedigree. Room at the top. Whatever that means. And few fond memories. So very formative stuff there.
Like I say, a lot of people will be writing Celtic off in this tie, and that's fine. But again, it's something that the players and the manager have to harness and use to their benefit. You can only use the tools that are available to you. You can only use the perceptions and the narrative around the game. You can use that as extra motivation, and I think the players and the manager have shown that they can do that. So yeah, go and surprise a few people is the message.
It's such a gutter, though, isn't it? That Daisen Maeda can't play because you'd really fancy him in this game, even against Bayern, given the way he's playing at the moment. You get the impression no defence in Europe would find it easy against him at the moment. Genuinely.
He's a wee bit unstoppable at the moment, and just again such a joy to watch, and just sets the tone in every performance. And yeah, like I said, now that he's got this kind of incisive finishing ability, this kind of the way he can just stick chances away now, that has just brought his game onto another level. Again, over 20 goals this season, and probably will get over 30 by the end of the season. It's a remarkable return from a player who's played out wide for most of the season, and who just offers so much more than the goals. The thing that he gives the Celtic, this is almost intangible. Just the way he sets the tone, the way he triggers the press, the energy that he brings the team, the way he stands up for other teammates, the way he's always there for people on that left flank is just extraordinary. And it's going to be a huge miss. I don't think you can... It's not just a case of, Maeda's out of the team. It's like a slight tactical adjustment, or because what Jota brings to the team is totally different to Daisen Maeda. Like they just have different skill sets, and I think just bringing Maeda's whole vibe out of the team is a definite blow. And this is the kind of match you would love having Maeda there for, because of how unique he is in the way he plays. And Bayern won't have played a player like him, and so just to have him out of that team is a definite blow.
It's definitely a blow, and Brendan Rodgers admitted that after the game on Saturday. Having Jota, though, is a lot better than what we had a couple of weeks ago, when you would have been talking Yang, who had a good game on Saturday, or Lewis Palmer coming in for this game. I feel like as much as people are saying Jota's clearly just back and has to build things up, he's looked pretty good so far, albeit not against Bayern Munich level opposition. But Jota's shown us in his first spell in Europe that he can be pretty handy in these games and a real threat to some of these teams. So obviously, if Maeda was fit, he would clearly be on my team. But I still think it's not as if we're scratching around trying to find someone to put into that place. Like Jota's a pretty obvious option, and I agree with you, he's a different kind of player. But a front three of Jota, Kuhn, and Enida, I still think can cause Bayern issues. I guess the issue after that would be 60 minutes if those players are tiring. Are there necessarily options off the bench? But I think Jota could light that up on Wednesday night as well. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, Rodgers will be looking at it as like this is a game to empty everything into the 90 minutes. Like if you've got extra to give, Celtic need to have that mentality where these players might have to go a little bit extra in the game if there's not that depth on the bench. And I think, like as you say, that is a factor. I don't think we do have the depth, unfortunately. So that is something to take note of. But I mean, what a platform it is for someone like Nicholas Kuhn, who can really sting German football. The darlings of German football, the jewel of German football. What an opportunity it is for him to go and assert himself as a major player in the Champions League against Bayern Munich. That I think it would do wonders just for his personal profile, and that has to be a motivating factor as well. And the same with Jota. Like he's had a difficult couple of years, but he's got this opportunity now coming into the Champions League to kind of re-announce his arrival as, again, a player of exceptional talent. And there's no better opportunity than Wednesday night. This is the stage. Go and show what you're made of.
I did notice a tweet from one of the Bayern Munich-based accounts, Bayern in Germany, just commenting on training yesterday. Bayern Munich. See, this is me trying to get you all pumped up and believing even more. A few players missed Bayern training yesterday. Serge Gnabry was one through the cold. Alphonso Davies, the Canadian, second best Canadian left back in the world, I believe. He's still recovering from a hamstring injury, John. I didn't realise he's actually had that. So he's probably not, well, it seems like he's not going to play in this match, which is a boost. Manuel Neuer missed training, although that's believed to be just a bit of rest. I think he's 38 years old now. And also Kim Min-jae, their South Korean centre-back, had a missed training through an Achilles problem. So potentially a couple of players there that would weaken their side slightly. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. In terms of our one, Paulo Bernardo, Brendan Rodgers reckons he'll be okay. It was just a precaution.
He kind of rolled his ankle, didn't he? Somewhere in his lower leg, he hurt. But Rodgers seemed to suggest that after speaking to the staff and to the player himself that it shouldn't be too concerned. And I don't, Bernardo's you wouldn't have him down as a starter on Wednesday night anyway. No. But obviously, again, it's about having that depth. It's about having those options available. So obviously, it'd be better that he's available than not.
Yep, right, Des Harkin. What is great about Jota is he's always looking to put the ball into goal-scoring spaces for his teammates, and he can put the ball on a pinhead, something we've been lacking lately. It's just another game for Adamida, isn't it? And another opportunity. Rested as well on Saturday, which is good. I mean, we got to rest a lot of our players, didn't we? There was a number of players we didn't even see on Saturday. So that's got to be, quite a good thing going into this game. It's I'm gradually getting there, John. I think by Wednesday afternoon I'll have us down for a 3-0 win or something like that. But I don't think this is impossible on Wednesday night. I fancy it a bit. If we bring our top level to the game, I think potentially Bayern could be up against it to an extent.
I mean, you're bringing this along with you, Hamish. If we all have this optimism on Wednesday, then that's fantastic. Again, it's one of those ones where there's no real expectation of Celtic either, so I'm not going into it nervous because, again, the reality is that Celtic probably aren't going to progress in the tie if you're looking at it logically. So for me, there's no real expectation for Celtic going through, so that kind of takes the pressure off it as well in terms of thinking ahead to it. I don't have massive nerves for it. It's more of an excitement. It's more of an excitement I think I have, and hopefully, again, that's what the Celtic camp feel as well. There's the pressure's off their shoulders a little bit, and I think that makes Celtic a more dangerous team in this context.
What's going on here? Hamish, where's your Seville faith? Believe and we can do this.
It's been speaking for half an hour about how... Yeah, there you go, Hamish. There you go. You speak for half an hour about how Celtic can beat Bayern and you get accused of not having faith, but...
What was I going to say there? I was going to make a point about something you were speaking about. It's probably gone. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting few days as well, because Bayern will probably be jetting in tomorrow, and we'll get their players talking about the fixture. And I think someone made the point earlier that when it gets to the knockout rounds of these competitions, like these teams, big European teams, kind of, I think they turn into different animals. That's why looking at the league table with Bayern finishing, was it 13th or whatever, it's kind of false to an extent, in that they're not the 13th favourites to win the tournament. They're probably about number 3 or number 4. I mean, it's a top team we're facing, filled with top talent.
Yeah, no, and again, the scale of the task, can't be kind of understated, really. But this is what football is. This is where Celtic want to be, and it's been a fun few days, and nothing would make it better than Celtic again showing up like a diamond on the European scene. That just puts everything into, again, it's supercharged. I've spoken about this before, but it supercharges Celtic's entire season. Celtic's season is really, I know the domestic stuff is kind of taking care of itself this season. I feel like Celtic's entire season has been built around Europe this year. And so, again, that's what makes Wednesday so big as well. And I don't think anyone's really shied away from that. I think Brendan Rodgers, obviously, he never disparages the Scottish Premiership or the domestic competitions. He wants Celtic to have success in those. That's kind of like a given for him. But him and the players, they've spoke so excitedly about the Champions League and what it means for them and what it means for their season. And again, that's just another factor going into Wednesday. This is the main event. This is almost Celtic's. We're talking about a cup final potentially down the line if Celtic can get through another couple of rounds of the Scottish Cup. But Wednesday night, it does feel like one of those cup final games where Celtic are just going to have to empty everything into the performance and see where they land.
Yeah, but I think you're right though, in that we've achieved the kind of the main target for Europe so far. And obviously, you never want to get to the point where you're we're just happy to be there, and it's very clear that no one's saying that at the club. But that big goal of finishing in the top 24 has been achieved, and in a way, this is kind of the reward. Just go for it and go and possibly have one of the most famous nights of the 21st century. So yeah, very excited. And listen, we've got a number of videos to build up to this game. There'll be loads on the channel, I assume, as well. Did I read that there's something up about Jeffrey Schlupp, isn't there?
We had an interview with the HLTCO podcast, the biggest Crystal Palace podcast. So he had a lot to say about Jeffrey Schlupp. We've got Derek Ray on the channel later talking about Bayern.
Whoa.
Obviously, he covers a
gone.
Yeah, covers a lot of German football, obviously, as a commentator, specifically for German TV, so he knows more about Bayern than most people. So we've got him on the channel later chatting to Tony, so that'll be good as well. But yeah, we've got lots of build-up on the website. I think there's a player press conference at some point today as well, just the heads up for everyone. So it's not Brendan Rodgers' press conference, but I think a player will be speaking to the media later, so we'll hear from the Celtic camp later. That's just something to keep an eye on.
Okay, very exciting. As I say, loads to build up to, and it's just a game that we're looking forward to. Just go through a few more comments before we head. Charles McBreen, Taylor will play ahead of Schlupp because Brendan Rodgers wants him to sign. I think Greg Taylor certainly will. He was one of the ones that we kind of got to rest, didn't we? So he'll definitely come in. Basically rested your entire back five, didn't we, including the goalkeeper? So they'll all come back in and be looking good. Marquee, past Bayern teams have come to Celtic Park and counter-attacked. It's going to be interesting to see what their approach is. I'll need to find out more about them and how their style is. I did hear Bayern fans saying they are susceptible to counter-attacks, which was music to my ears. So that's something to keep an eye on. And I'm getting a slagging now for talking nonsense and believing we have a chance of beating Bayern. So that's more like it. And I guess, shocks yesterday. Connor Hazard's Plymouth putting out Liverpool, and obviously the one at Ibrox. Someone was saying that shocks come in threes, so maybe that could happen on Wednesday night. And Dyson Maida's getting a lot of love from people as well. Good stuff, John. Final thoughts?
Yeah, no real final thoughts from me. Just everyone have a good week. Everyone enjoy today. The weekend, the Scottish Cup, what happened. both in a Celtic one, as the nature of the rivalry with the Rangers means that everyone enjoyed what happened at Ibrox to enjoy days today like today. That's what football's about. Just, yeah, everyone has got a smile on their face for a reason. The chat has been buzzing with energy almost the entire half an hour we've been on this show. And just keep that energy going into Wednesday. That's my message. Keep the smiles on your face, keep the optimism up, and let's see what happens.
Great stuff. Thanks, John, very much for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you are new to the channel and fancy clicking that subscribe button, means that you support the channel and get notified whenever we go live. Completely free. Please consider doing that. It does actually make quite a big difference to what we're trying to do. And yeah, more stuff on the website. I'll be back this time tomorrow with the Tuesday's morning briefing. Speak to you then.